Hello my loves, I'm Lizzie and this is Lizzie Reads, and welcome to my Exploring Romance Contemporary Edition Part 1. I'm going to take my glasses off now. This is a new video series that I'm starting, and it's going to be a long vlog style series in which I explore the romance genre and try to find the things that I really love about romance. As you may well know, I have been falling in love with romance for the past year now. I started reading romance January 2021 and it became a real escape for me, and I realised quite how much value and enjoyment I had from it. Now, before this, I really liked romance in fantasy novels and like shipping characters, but I never really read anything too concrete other than various fan fictions over the years and YA stuff when I was a teen. I've been finding myself like exploring the genre a bit more, but I'm sort of going quite blindly. I'm just picking up mostly popular recommended titles. There are a few tropes that I gravitate towards, and sort of areas and settings that I like hockey romance, sports romances. But what I tend to do is just find a series on Kindle Unlimited and then binge my way through the characters. Now, this year I really want to get a bit more of a focus and find what I really love, which things I love about romance, and I've decided to explore the genre a bit more in this vlog style by doing a 10-point ranking system, very similar to Core Pile, but it's geared towards romance, and I'm sort of taking a deep dive into certain romance books. And the first part of this series is going to be looking at contemporary romances. So I'm looking at the very broad, I'm starting very broad and I'm going to go narrow as we go along. I'm going to look at things like fantasy romance, historical romance, erotica. I'm going to explore the genre. Well, I know erotica is a very different genre to romance, but I thought it'd be interesting to explore in this way. But also I'm just going to sort of look at everything and find what I really love, so I have a greater chance of choosing something that I really enjoy. My aim is for this to go on for quite a while, exploring different areas of the genre and also looking at tropes as well later on down the line to see what about the tropes I like. And also this is a really interesting way for me to explore the writing styles and the techniques and the things that I love about romance books, because if you didn't know, I went to university for creative and media writing, and for a very long time I called myself a writer. I work in books now, but I do not write anymore. I think I got extremely burned out from writing at university, and yeah, it's not a passion or a hobby that I still engage in, but it's something I really want to revisit, just personally for myself. And I think that as my reading tastes have changed, I think my writing style might change, and I just think if I want to write a romance novel story just for myself, just for me to enjoy, then I want it to have all of the things that I enjoy the most. And I think exploring this might help me get inspired and write different scenes and develop that side of my passion for reading and writing. So yeah, that's the reason why I'm doing this. But I'm going to talk about the system that I'm using to read and rank the books. This is the starting point, so this is going to have everything in it to explain to you. So I have picked 10 areas for romance that I am going to be analysing. However, I think that this may change in terms of the different areas that I look at. So for example, for fantasy romance, I'll have a section for fantasy, but currently we have a section for main character 1 and main character 2 separately, so that I'm ranking I'm giving a rating for each of the characters out of 10, how much I enjoyed them, how much they were fleshed out, because sometimes I find one character is more fleshed out and more likeable, or just have more variety to them than the other, and sometimes it can give quite an unequal footing. And then we have them as a couple, so how they work as a couple, do I root for them, that sort of thing is what I'm looking at. Next we have spice, and here I'm looking at both frequency and quality, but in this sense I'm also looking at it relevant to the story. So if it's a story where the spice doesn't really fit, then that makes sense. So if there's a reason, for example, within the main character's backstory and their personal circumstances in which spice is not relevant, then it will still get a high score because it's relevant to the story. Like, I'm not going to mark books down for not having loads of spice, but if there's loads of spice and it's good and it's relevant to the story, the higher it will get. So it is relative. I'm not going to mark books down that don't have any spice if there's reasons or if it feels right for that story, because although I love a smutty book, sometimes it's not always relevant. Then we have romance. So here I'm looking at how romantic does the book feel. Do you really feel them falling in love? Is it insta-lovey? Things like that is what I'm really looking at. And then we have swoon, because I feel like swoon is an entirely different thing, and the best and my favourite romance stories have made me absolutely swoon and you just want to put your face in the pillow and scream. So that's what I'm looking for here. A bit arbitrary. Is there any way to define it? No, but I'm just trying my best. And also, that's kind of the point. The point is to be able to define it at the end. Then we have tension. How tense is the story? Is it angsty, but is it perfect? Like, has it got me on edge? Because I feel like my favourite romance books are super tense and have me on the edge of my seat thinking what is going to happen next. But also, again, relevant to the story, because sometimes tension's not super relevant. Next, we have the third act breakup. And I think that this is really important because sometimes the third act breakup completely ruins a romance story. Sometimes it's really slight, sometimes it's just a couple of sentences long, and I really like that. Sometimes that doesn't fit. So that's something I'm going to look at and explore throughout this, as well as the ending. So obviously a key point to the romance genre is that they all have happy ever afters. The HEA is so important, but sometimes it's not delivered in the best way. It's rushed, or there needs to be an epilogue that just gives you all the juicy details. Then last but certainly not least, I'm looking at the setting / trope. So sometimes a lot of these contemporary romances have specified settings, which I want to see how much is that played on, or how much is the trope played on. So I'm giving it a rank out of 10 and out of 100, and I think in order to get like a full picture of my first foray, or my first like deep dive in contemporary and really analysing them, I want to get 10 books to compare and completely rank, because I think it will just be 10 feels like a round number. Although I won't be talking about 10 books in this video, I'll be talking about 6 books in this video, and then in part 2 I'll be talking about 4 books, and then there'll be a longer section at the end where I'm analysing all the results and talking about it a little bit more, like a bit more of a chatty roundup, talking about what I found from this. This isn't like the be all and end all. I'm not covering every single ground. This is just the start of the project, so there's a lot to sort of cover, but primarily at the moment this is where I'm sort of sitting and this is what I'm looking at doing. What you can expect from this is me talking a little bit about the book before I read it, like what I'm expecting from it, and then maybe 1 or 2 midway through updates depending on the length of the book, and then a wrap up at the end where I talk through my score and my rating, and then at the end I'll just do a little bit where I tell you all of the ratings and how the sort of leaderboard is looking at the moment. There aren't many spoilers in this video, very few, a few mild spoilers I would say, but they are all marked. If you can see down below, there's the chapters, and those sort of sections where I go briefly into spoilers are marked there, so you can just skip ahead. But I do feel very much as though it's not super spoilery. I don't talk about any specifics. So let's get into the first book. I have decided that my first book is going to be Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, because it's one of the longest, so I kind of wanted to get it out of the way, and it's one that I really wanted to read because I'm really interested in the dynamic and the relationship, because as far as I'm aware, it's about a young girl, she's 19, her and her boyfriend move in with his dad, or she lives with his dad or whatever, and it's about a relationship between the dad and the daughter-in-law, I guess, which is to me really weird, so that's kind of why I'm intrigued, because I'm like, I just don't know if I'm gonna like this, but I'm willing to give it a go and see what you think of it. Hopefully it'll be like crazy and fun, but yeah, so that's my initial thoughts and opinions on it. I'm not sure what I'm actually going to think of it, but we'll see. But I'm actually only 47% of the way into my first book, which just think I regret starting with this one a little bit. I'm going to finish it. It's not like bad DNF, like I don't want to read it type thing. it's not, definitely not a fast-paced read. Like, I'm giving like a 50% update, just like, I'm not sure like ratings or anything. We'll call it a 50% update, but I definitely want to finish this today because I've just got like, I just want to get on, move on. But I don't think it's a fast read, and I just don't feel like compelled. Like, some of the phrasing is a little bit off. Like, the age gap is like not too bad, but it's like sometimes he calls her kid to like trick himself into thinking that he doesn't like fancy her, but like he's in like self-denial sort of thing, and it gives me the ick a little bit. There's been like no contact between them, just like it's just starting to get tense. Basically, it's only just starting to kick off. There's something slightly insta-lovey about it. Very much like, oh, they're perfect. I love everything about them. They're my ideal man, my ideal type. But I'm like, you don't really know each other. I would much prefer it as if they were like, it was all the focus on was on how comfortable they felt around each other and how much they fancied each other, rather than like, and like the love coming later. I think that would be a much better, like the real love, like the real like, oh my god, they're so perfect sort of thing coming a bit later. That's a personal preference for me, especially with the situation. It just feels a bit weird. Some of the things that Pike does, like restrictions, and the jealousy. The jealousy is a little bit much in this. It's a little bit annoying, especially with the age gap, and like, I'm not sure if like there's an element of looking down on like sex work and strippers and you know, sex related work, because there's an element of that that's I'm a bit like, not like other girls girl, kind of like, that's what I'm kind of getting. That's what I'm kind of getting. But what Penelope Douglas has done is made her boyfriend bad enough that it's acceptable for her to want to be with someone else, and that someone being his dad, but also giving the element of the like backstory between them, and the fact that it's basically, what it's giving me is that they shouldn't have been together and they just were drawn together through trauma, and they're both reacting to it in different ways. I definitely think Cole as a character can be redeemed. I think like nothing he's done, I mean, he's been a bit of a dick actually, yeah, but I don't think it's not turnaroundable. Like, in the end, I reckon he'll be like a doting son and he'll meet a girl that's, you know, lovely for him. But yeah, I'm gonna try and do some more reading, but I'm working and I've only got the ebook for this one, but I don't want to get the audiobook, don't want to start an audiobook for something else, so I'm a bit like I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna find time to read it. Spoilers for Birthday Girl incoming. Now, not me saying that Cole is redeemable. Starting the first chapter to the next chapter, 2 pages in, he's fucking someone else in the pool. Fab. Such a twat. Hello, sorry about this weird post shower like bad quality update, but I finished my first book of the project, and I finished, obviously I haven't told you I started reading any more books, so I finished Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk through what I thought about the book, but through my ratings and my rankings. So overall, I enjoyed the second half a lot more than I enjoyed the first half. It moved a little bit quicker, a lot more stuff was happening, everyone was a little bit more likeable, except certain main characters, certain like side characters, but yeah, I quite liked it, but I'm going to talk about it through each point. So first of all, we have main character 1. So the main character here is Jordan. Her name escaped me. Anyway, so main character 1 is Jordan, and I kind of like Jordan, but also I thought she was a little bit of a not like other girls girl. She had like some real strong prejudice, especially towards like her sister, and like some like slightly questionable opinions. Like, I just didn't like the way she just come across a bit judgy, and yeah, mostly I liked her though, so I think I'm probably gonna give her like, she's not quite a 7, she's like a 6.5. I think I'm gonna go for 0.5s because why the F not 5. Then we've got the main character, which is Pike, and I liked Pike a lot more. Well, not too much more actually. He was an interesting character. We went a little bit into his backstory, but like not too much. There were aspects of his character arc that weren't quite resolved, so his relationship with his son sort of got better. However, they didn't address the aspects of the fact that Pike's ex, his Cole's mum, like, and their relationship, and like they didn't really address that too much. I think that was a little bit annoying. I liked him enough, but not like super lot. I liked him slightly more than I liked Jordan, just because I liked reading from his perspective a lot, to be honest. So that was pretty good. So I'm going to give him a 7. I think that's like not elite, but as a couple, for my couple ranking, this is really hard because I'm ranking on specific things. Them as a couple, like together, I liked the way they fit together. I liked when they were doing like coupley things. It was really cute. But like I didn't care super a lot. Like obviously I knew that they were going to be together in the end, but like they weren't like my favourite couple. Like the interactions weren't my favourite, like the best thing ever. So I think a good 6.5 again. Like it's not in the top end of couples, as in my opinion. Now then we get onto the good stuff. We get onto the spice. So I'm splitting the spice into like 2 sections. I'm looking at frequency and quality. I'd say the quality is like a good, like if we're looking at like as a dead half split, so out of 5 for example, I think the quality was like a good 4.5. No, I'm gonna give it a good 4. I think 4 for quality, because it was very interesting and dynamic, and the fact that obviously they didn't sort of come together until a good chunk of the way through the novel, but she explored some spice like slightly earlier than that with through their like their thinking about each other and like their imaginary scenarios and stuff, which is quite interesting. I would say it was a good solid 4. Like there was a lot to it, and it was quite interesting, but it didn't go too much. It wasn't too amazing, so I'd give it a good 4. 3.5. I'm gonna give it 3.5 because I'm just thinking of like the better stuff that I've read out there. Although I really liked it, there's stuff that I've read that's so much better and goes in so many different areas, whereas this sort of just, I don't know. It was good though. It was better than average, definitely. So we've got 3.5 for that half. And then for the frequency, I think the frequency was a good level for the story. So I think there could have been a few moments earlier, and I think that in the meat of the story there was quite a few like moments, and they weren't all super long, and they were varying lengths, which I quite liked. So I'm gonna go with 4. We end up with 7.5 for spice overall, which feels right. Yeah, it feels right, because it's a good amount. It was good, but it wasn't like the best. Oh my god, like this is something to write home about. Swoon, next is Swoon, and we're going to go such a low. We're going to go like a 2. I didn't swoon over this story very much at all. Swoon over the characters. Like I liked Pike, but there was never any moments where I thought, oh my god, I just love them so much. I liked them, and there was potential. It just, I don't know if it was the story, the setting, the taboo element. Like I just don't know. It didn't like enter that like top tier. Like I was obsessed. I wouldn't say I was obsessed with the story at all, and this is the elements that do bring it down. And then in terms of romance, because romance and Swoon are very similar, but Swoon is like more of a feeling type thing. I don't think there was much romance in the earlier part of the novel. It felt really like smut-centric is the only way I can think about it, with really insta-lovey feelings, and then later on it all comes sort of together. And although I like the bits when it came together, the bits before then, something about it just didn't ring too true. And it's a really hard thing when I'm talking about this. Hopefully throughout the week I'll get a little bit better at explaining, but it's really hard to explain, to pinpoint the exact things that mean I want to give it a lower romance score. So I think I would give it like 4, to be honest with you, like a 4 or like a 4.5, I think. Yeah, I'm going to go 4.5 because I feel like 4 is a bit harsh. Tension is the next point, and tension, on the other hand, was good. The tension was decent because it got really tense in the middle, and the second half the tension was really good, and like there was lots going on and lots of elements at play. So I think I'm probably going to go for a straight 6.5 again. 6.5 because like there were other elements that just didn't bring it down, but like I wasn't fully immersed in that element. However, third act breakup, I think I'm going to give the third act breakup like an 8.5 because it was reasonable. It was a really reasonable third act breakup because of the taboo element and all of the factors at play and like all of the things that we'd learned about the characters so far. It felt really realistic. It didn't feel forced. And moving on to the ending, I liked the way the third act breakup, I'm going to just do a little spoiler here, slight spoilers, but it may matter. It may not matter to you. I'm not going to be specific. I'm just going to say I like the way that there was a time break between the third act breakup and the happily ever after. I think I like that they had some time away from each other because I feel like that really sold them a little bit more as a couple. So I'm going to also give that 8.5 because also afterwards, in the end, the epilogues, I liked that they did a couple of epilogues through different periods in their life to get a little bit more like of a taster for their future, which was really, really nice. So I'm going to give the ending and the third, like the resolution of the third act breakup, 8.5 as well, because I just think it was dealt with really nicely. Then last but not least, we have the setting / the trope. Now, I really liked the idea of them living in the house together. I thought that was a really good setting. But the trope in general, I just didn't think I liked the trope very much. I liked it wasn't, I didn't think it was played on enough, because it was like by the time that they were doing things, the taboo element was kind of reduced in some format. So I think I'm going to go for a 4. In total, that brings me to 61.5, which I think is pretty reasonable because obviously half of 61 is 30, so if we took that on a 5-star rating, it was a straight 3 stars, which I liked it, but it wasn't close to anything else on the sort of scale of being a really good favourite. And I probably there are elements I really liked about it. I liked that it didn't shy away from like masturbation, because obviously that can be really like excluded from everything. So that was quite interesting that there was that included, and I like some of the different elements, but I think it was just a little bit too long for me to fully grasp. I think there were a few things about it that could have like really improved it in my eyes, but I think this is more one that is really not like for me. I think not that I don't like the taboo element, and I think it would be really cool for me to do one of these videos with just like taboo romances or like dark romances, but I think particularly this trope is not like, it doesn't do it for me. So I picked to read The Replacements by Shay Sanders, which I think is a story where like a woman finds out that her husband's cheating on her, and she decides to get revenge, I think by sleeping with her boss. Oh no, I think what happens is she has no financial freedom, so she stays with him while she gets a job and saves money. And I think there's like a co-worker or something. I'm not really sure yet, but I'll let you know. Hello. So it is Thursday now. It's been a little while since I updated you, mainly because I was at work today. I read up to 50% of The Replacements last night, and then I worked today in the office. So like I couldn't like talk or anything like on my breaks or whatever, so made it a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I read about 50% of The Replacements last night, and I tell you, I am loving this book. I'm loving both the main characters. The Smartest Kicked Off is really good. The flirtation, the banter, the setting, I am enjoying all of the elements, and I can't wait to read the rest of it tonight and sit down and break it down for you and let you know what areas I liked and what areas I didn't like. Well, I don't think there's going to be many I didn't like, but yeah. Hello, so it is Friday and I finished The Replacements last night, and I thought I would update you on my rankings and ratings. So I've just got my thing just here. I rated it all last night because I just didn't want to forget it, but I didn't have a chance to film because I have, so for romance ratings, I gave main characters both 1 and 2, so that's Savannah and Taurus, 10 each because I loved them. I thought they were so entertaining, they were so nuanced, they were so interesting. It was such a short book, but both characters stood alone individually. I loved individually their motivations, what was driving them. I loved how developed it was. It was unbelievably so interesting, and I loved Taurus's perspective. I think Taurus's perspective was so good. I liked that it was kind of felt to me like it was more from Taurus's perspective than Savannah's perspective. I'm not 100% sure on how accurate that is, but that's how it's felt. And then because I loved them so much as a couple, I gave them 10 because I just couldn't see any room for improvement and anything that I would like more or enjoy more from it. I gave the spice a 9 because although it was like frequent and the spice was really good, the communication between them, the flirting, the banter, like it was very, very sexy, very good. But the scenes all felt a little bit short, so I sort of just docked a point for that because it's not perfect, but basically it is. Then in terms of their romance, I gave them a 10 because it was so sweet, and there were so many different layers to it, and I really liked all of the different things that were going on in their lives that they considered in the story. And do you know what, I just fucking loved it. And then I gave it an 8 for tension because the setting was really tense and it was really good, but like it was very much slightly lower on the tension scale in terms of like there wasn't anything that was going to go hugely wrong. Now, the third act breakup was very different to any other third act breakup I ever read because not necessarily there wasn't one. I'm just going to put a spoiler here. It's really hard to talk about because there wasn't one. There wasn't a third act breakup. They didn't break up. They just decided to be together, but it was tense because it was like, are they going to break? What's going to happen? And then when it didn't happen, I felt so relieved. And I was like, this is amazing because the tension from her, the way you thought that they were going to break up because of something that was happening, because of her divorce with her previous partner, you thought that they were going to break up, but they didn't. It was so good. I loved it. I thought it had the tension, but then didn't happen. So I gave it 10 and then 9 on the ending because I loved the way that wrapped up because everything was perfect. I just wish for a slightly longer epilogue or like a second epilogue, or a vignette or something a bit later. I didn't want like an epilogue for something quite as close. I wanted something a bit different. And I gave it a 9 for setting / trope because that's like, it was quite a good setting, and I liked that they explored it enough but not too much. So that gives it overall 93, which is basically a 5 stars. So Future Lizzie interjecting here to say that the next book I'm going to read, although I've already read it, is Good Girl Complex by Elle Kennedy. I didn't super vlog this experience, I just literally read it and then rated it. Good Girl Complex follows Mac, who is like a high society rich girl, and Cooper, who is a small town orphaned kind of rough and ready kind of guy, and Mac has just taken a year off of uni to start her own business as an app developer, but she is forced to go back because of her parents' expectations, and she has a boyfriend who she has been told she's going to be marrying for quite some time. It's all very much set up for her in her life. Her boyfriend wrongs Cooper, the main character. Gets him fired from his job because Mac's boyfriend at the beginning of the story is a very pretentious arsehole and treats townies like they're pieces of shit. Then Cooper, with his other friends from this small town, which the university and all the rich kids invade, they make a deal that he should steal his girlfriend and embarrass him publicly, basically. And that's where this story starts. And all I'm going to say about it is the bet dare trope is my least favourite of all the tropes. So I'm just going to leave it there and actually talk about my ratings, because there's not super a lot I can really tell you about this at the moment. So it's been quite a bit of time since I updated this reading blog. It's actually been about 3 weeks since I finished Good Girl Complex. And I'm going to talk you through my ranking on the rating system. So for main character 1, which is Mac, I gave a 7 because she was alright. She was good, but not great, like not amazing. To be honest, it's 3 weeks later now, so she hasn't really stuck with me. So I could probably amend that to like a 6, I think. I think I'm a 6 because I remember liking her, but she hasn't stuck with me. And then we've got main character 2, which is Cooper, who, again, the same. I'm going to amend it down from 7 to 6 because it hasn't really stuck with me. And I think, yeah, I really liked him. I thought he was great, but... And then there's a couple I gave them 7. I thought they were a little bit boring, but they were good, and there were moments where they were really cute and really sweet. And then for spice, I gave it a whole 2 because I just thought this was not spicy. I don't think the spice delivered for me in this book in any sense of the word, and it's very different from, in my opinion, from how I felt that what's it called? The off-campus series was in terms of spice, and I very little swooned over the characters, so although I liked them, I wasn't obsessed. I wasn't just dying for them, so I gave them 4. And then following on from that, in terms of the romance, I gave it 5 because it was sweet but nothing hugely novel. And then there were points where it was really tense, and I thought it was going to get really good, so I did give it 6, and with the third act breakup, and then the ending, I gave them both 5 because I thought the third act breakup was very much of the same, and the ending was so rushed. It was so rushed. It was like, okay, we're together now, we agree, and there was no epilogue. I know romance books don't have to have an epilogue, but in this situation I would have really liked an epilogue because it just stopped. There was no after scene to sort of give us any indication of what their actual relationship was like in its final form. And then in terms of setting and trope, I gave it 7 because I really liked the small town scene and things like that, but in terms of the trope and the lying and the dare, it's not something I'm super keen on. It was done okay, it could have been better, it could have been worse. Yeah, so overall that gives it a 53. I think I gave it a solid 3 stars. I think because there were bits of it I really did enjoy, and I do think I really liked El Kennedy. I just think that this didn't quite hit the spot for me. I'm now finally about to start my 4th book of this vlog, and that is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This came in my Illumicrate Afterlight box, the second one that I got. And I don't really know much about it except from the fact it's sapphic, and I believe one of the women has a child, and also I I think it's like a one night stand to romance type thing. Yeah, so I'm quite excited to read it actually, and it's a really beautiful edition. It's called Delilah Green Doesn't Care. I thought I'd do my first update because I am about a third of the way through now. I've just finished chapter 10, which is page 128, and it's like 370 pages or something, so just over a third of the way through now. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm really liking the characters and the setting and the backstory. Just for a little bit of context, Delilah Green is around 30 something, like a 30 something, 28, 29, I think she's like almost 30, and she lives in New York City, and she's an artist, a photographer, and basically she is going back to her hometown to photograph her stepsister's wedding, and she has like a very Cinderella style background. Like her dad died not long after they moved in with her stepmom and her sister, and their relationship isn't a very strong one, and there's a lot of backstory there, and it's like almost like upper middle class society. And she's gone back, and Claire has a 11-year-old daughter, and she's like dealing with her own issues with the dad being a bit of an on and off again dad, because she's a single mum, and sometimes he's there, sometimes he's not there, and it's like got this really interesting setup. However, I was interested enough without like a certain trope that's coming into play. I think it's early enough in the story for me to not for me to share it, but if you think you don't want to be spoiled for anything, maybe skip over this next part. I'll put a little spoiler tag at the bottom. But there's a joke about a bet, and then it like the bet of Delilah getting Claire into bed, and I hate that trope. I think it's so annoying. It's very rarely ever done well, and it's just so frustrating. So I think it could have been so good without that. Like, I don't need that element to it. I'm really interested in the story and the setting anyway, and I really am. I do like the characters, but we'll see. We shall see. So I just got out of the bath because I finished Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. The play out of the trope that I don't particularly like was dealt with quite well. I kind of wish it had been a like mid, like a middle of the book conflict instead of being the conflict at the end. I think it would have been dealt with in a lot smaller way, or it would, I don't know, but there was a lot of conflict building up to the end, and I really enjoyed how there was a couple of different plot points going along the story, or like things that were getting in the way as such, and a few different things you were sort of looking at, and I could see how it's really going to be a trilogy. I'm pretty sure it's going to be some sort of trilogy. So let's rate the book, rank to the points together now. I think I'm going to give Delilah, I'm going to call her main character 1 because Delilah's on the cover of the book, in the title of the book. Delilah's probably like an 8.75 of a character. I know that's really specific, but I really liked her. I thought she was really cool. I really liked her hobbies. I thought she was really interesting. I really liked the way she dealt with things. However, she was very distant because of like all these things, but the distance sometimes made me feel a little bit distant from her. And then main character 2, which would be a Claire, I'm going to give a 9 because I really liked her character. I thought she was really well fleshed out. I thought it was really interesting, all of the different parts of her personality, and I loved like seeing her side as a mum, and yes, I thought she was really cool. But again, she wasn't just like the most amazing, like she was really good, but not like 10, like full the best character, my favourite character ever. Next up we have Couple, Spice and Swoon, and as a couple I'm going to give them, I want to give them a 10, you know. I think they really worked well together as a couple. I loved seeing them together. I really liked their interactions, and with Ruby, which is Claire's daughter, I liked how that was. There was like some hesitancy there, and yeah, I really liked the way they ended up as a couple. And Spice again. So if I'm looking at quality and like frequency, so I'm going to go with an 8, and that's not to say it's super smutty. There's like a couple of scenes throughout, but it felt like it fitted the story and the nature of the story, because it has a very like Hallmarky style vibe, in the sense that it's like returning to small town, and there's lots of different plot threads and like family drama going on at the same time, so it felt quite fitting that there wasn't too much, but I could have done a fraction more, and with like a fraction more like variety, you know what I mean? And then Swoon, oh, I loved these characters. I thought they were so cute, and I would probably give them a solid 8 for Swoon, because every time I look at this front cover, I'm gonna be like, oh my god, I love those. I love them. They're so cute. Such a good couple. Next, let's talk about romance and tension. So first of all, romance. They didn't speak very like romantically to each other, like in the sense that they weren't like, telling each other like loads of like waxing lyrical, which is something I quite like. And it didn't feel as present in this near the beginning and stuff and towards the end, because it had like more of like a contemporary leaning, if you know what I mean. Like it's not like, it wasn't super heavy on the romance, but it did felt like the level of romance did fit the story. So I'm going to probably give it a 7, because I love a good confession of love, and there was a nice one at the end, but I could have had a little bit more like confessions of love when they're like bickering and stuff. And then the tension just didn't feel like the kind of story that had too much tension, if you know what I mean. There was tension, but it wasn't like super pining. Yeah, it was. I'm going to give this one a straight 7 as well. I'm not going to think too much about it. I just think like it was good, but could have been a little bit better. I'm going to go 7. Then we have the third act breakup, which was pretty good. It felt fitting. I liked it a lot. It didn't feel like too overwhelming. The only thing was the trope, which is annoying, very, very annoying to me. So I'm going to go with a 7 again, I think. And then for the ending, I really liked the ending. I liked that there wasn't like an epilogue, because sometimes an epilogue is needed, and this isn't. There's like a short epilogue to show that they've like moved in, and like they've moved in separately. Like I really liked that. I liked the way it wrapped up. I liked that it wasn't like jumped straight into a relationship, because obviously Claire's got a child, so that's like, you know, it's very delicate. So I think I'm going to give that ending and like an 8.75. For the setting / the trope, I'm going to give this again 8.75, because I love the setting. It's just that small use of the trope, but it wasn't too heavily played on, but it definitely did knock bits for me. But I love the setting. I love the small town vibes. I like the wedding setting that it was going with. Really, really, really loved it. This means that the book has rounded out on an 82.75, which I'm going to call like a 4.25, which feels very right to me. It was really, really good. I definitely am really looking forward to the next series. The next in the series, I wonder if the slightly different characters and the trope being slightly different would like boost my rating, because I really, really love the writing and the setting. Getting Schools by Christina C. Jones, I think. I read one book from her before. I think it's called I Think I Might Love You. It was a novella, as is this one, and I really liked it. I just wanted a bit more from it. But I think a lot of her work is novellas, so I'm going to give this one a try, because I really liked the characters in the other one, and yeah, I liked a lot of things about it. But this one here, I believe, is like a teacher. It's between teachers or lecturers in a university, I think, or something of that sort. And I thought the setting might give the bit of bolstering that I wanted to the previous story. And yeah, I really want to just read more from her. Just something slightly different, with a bit of a trope or a setting. I probably will finish it tonight. I'm hoping to just read it because I was feeling a bit slumpy, so I turned to this to hopefully get me out of that. I just got to chapter 9, which is 50%, and I just thought I'd give you a little update. It's not quite the story that I thought it was, like the trope and the vibe. The main character, Reese, is she's a grad student, but she's like a grad assistant, so she's probably like 25, 26 maybe, I don't know. And the undergrad, the student, is a 28-year-old man who is going to uni after or college after being in the army. And yeah, so they've got a really interesting dynamic, and it's super tense. It's obviously, like, it was quite slow at the beginning, which is unexpected. I thought it was going to move a lot faster than this. But there's a real strong level of attraction and tenseness between them. Yeah, so I'm actually quite enjoying it. It's not quite what I expected. But yeah, it's pretty good. I felt like the ending just now was so abrupt and weird. Like, it just was there. We were building to something, and like, I liked that it was like a couple of pages of third act breakup, but I'm so confused by the ending. I thought it was so quick. Weird. So I just ran it through the rating system, and I'm just going to quickly go through it with you. I gave the main character 1, which is Reese. I gave a 7. Not my fave, but pretty good. Main character 2, which is, I've literally just forgotten his name, and I finished the book 2 seconds ago. What's his name? I gave him an 8 because I liked him better than that. Like, I liked him better. And as a couple, 7.5. Spice, solid 6, because I personally, there wasn't that much. And I thought, for a novella, I thought there would be more, to be honest with you. And then straight up 6 for swing, because there wasn't that much, but I did like them. And then 6 for romance. Again, bit insta-lovey. Liked the ending and the beginning, but the middle sort of fell flat. But good 7.5, because at the beginning they really hated each other, and I quite like that. I gave the third act breakup a 7.5 because I liked how it was like quite a quick one, but the ending was a 4 because, I mean, I liked the HEA at the end, but it was so abrupt. I was not surprised. And then setting and trope, I gave 4 because they definitely didn't play on the setting like I would have liked them to, and the things that come with that setting. So it got a straight 63.5. And I ran it through Corpal and it got a 6, so it's actually only a few minutes later, but I am going to be starting my next and final book for this vlog. This book is Heartless Player by R.T. Stevens. Now, I have loads of options for books that I want to read for this series. A couple of really popular books, and I've just got a whole array of books that I want to read for this. However, I didn't think it would be a good idea to do this video without doing my favourite type of romance book so far, and that is college hockey romances. They're my favourite. I literally don't care for hockey in the real world in the slightest. But every single hockey romance I've ever read, I have so much fun with, even if they're shit. So I wanted to see like how that would play into the ranking system and how like that's gonna work. This one I have no idea about the tropes. I just found a hockey romance. It was on Kindle Unlimited. It is one that I have actually not read from the author before. That was something I was sort of looking for. That's the whole point, is I'm trying to find some different things and find out whether the things that I actually what draws me to these type of romances over, I don't know, different types of romances. But the sports romances really get me. And there's something about the hockey romances, I don't know what it is. It's just under 300 pages as well, so it's not too bad. So I was kind of hoping that I'd be coming up to you next with a like 30, 40%, 50% update. I DNF'd at 11% because the writing was just so clunky, so many short sentences, and I didn't like the characters, I didn't like the writing, I didn't like the way it was being set up, and I was just like, I will probably end up giving this like a 2 stars. If I carry on, I'm sure by the end the characters will be grand and I'll like them all the same and it'll be fine. But I don't have time for this shit. So I'm still going to include it as number 6 on the project, because although this is a rating and a ranking, it's not like I'm not rating on Storygraph or anything. It's got an extremely low score because obviously some of the points that I had to give was 0 because I didn't get to those points. For what it's worth, I'm going to talk you through. So main character 1 is called Rebel. I gave Rebel a 4 because I thought she could be an interesting character. Anyway, could have been really interesting. She seemed to have a really interesting like home life and backstory, and but she was a bit. She was a little bit generic. Obviously, it was like chapter 3 I DNF'd, so there wasn't much time for her to be fleshed out. But instantly, I did not get the good feelings. I gave main character 2 a 2, a generous 2, because at the beginning he seemed like a really nice guy. He came in to call out one of his teammates for being a dick for asking like inappropriate questions about Rebel's prosthetic leg. But then there was a scene in his head. I love both love interest POV. Love that. And usually at the beginning of a hockey romance novel, just in general, usually when the rakish main character, which is usually the male, these aren't very generic, these stories, usually they're like shagging someone at the beginning, getting all manner of things going on, but it's never explicit. I don't need a smut scene of the main character having detached casual sex, which is fine. Just I don't want to read one of the main characters having detached casual sex with another side character, because the smut is kind of supposed to be, for me in a romance novel, the smut is like meant to be between the 2 main characters. Potential others, that's not a problem in that like consensual way. I mean, it's hard to say because the sex obviously was consensual, but like it was very like routine, short, sharp sentences. It was like, oh, and then we fucked, and then we went to the shower, and then she sucked my dick, and then she did. I was a bit like, this is not what I want. I don't care. Like, I literally don't care. You could have. That's the perfect time to have fade to black. Weird for me personally. I thought that was really weird. And he's very robotic. He didn't treat this girl very nicely. He was like, all of a sudden went from being really nice to being a bit of a dick, and then in the next scene he was really nice again. So he definitely had potential to be a really nice character that just had a shitty beginning, but I just didn't need that shit in his head, to be honest. As a couple, I gave them 0 because I didn't get to see them as a couple. So for spice, I gave it 0 because that spicy zine, if that's a sign of things to come, it's getting -10. Yeah, I would have given mine a 0 swoon. I gave 1 romance because there was a moment where they were having a little like bit of banter in the coffee shop, and I thought that's pretty cute, so I gave them 1 for romance, 0 for tension because there was none, that breakup 0 because I didn't get there, 0 for ending. Setting trip, I gave it 1 because I just love the hockey. Do you know what I mean? The hockey chat was the best bit. Like I don't know. In total, it got 8. So obviously it's going to be one of my lowest ranking, unless there's one that's worse out there. But it's not necessarily that the whole book was bad. I just really didn't get on with the writing style, and I know that I realise now that there's not a section on here for writing, but usually it doesn't affect me that badly. So you've made it so far. I can't believe it. Thank you so much. I am just going to wrap this up now. I'm just going to quickly talk through the way the ranking is looking so far, and talk you through the books I read very briefly. So to wrap up, I'm going to put the final stats before like moving them in there in the leaderboard. So far here is we've got Birthday Girl with 61.5, The Replacements with 93, Good Girl Complex with 53, Delilah Green Doesn't Care with 82.75, Getting Schooled with 63, and Heartless Player with 8. Again, just to reiterate, the reason I include the DNF here is because although I haven't rated it on Storygraph, it is still part of my project, and the reasons why I disliked it still count for this, so I am still counting it. And now I'm gonna reorganize them here with their like current leaderboard standings. Obviously we've still got 4 books to go, so it's all to play for, but we have The Replacements in number 1, which I am so pleased about because it was so good, and then Delilah Green Doesn't Care in number 2, and then Getting Schooled by Christina C.L. Jones in number 3. But number 4 is Birthday Girl, number 5 is Good Girl Complex, and number 6 is obviously Heartless Player. That's where things are standing at the moment, but I'm really excited to do a part 2 of this video. The part 2 will probably come quite shortly, not too long anyway, I don't think, until part 2 will be ready for you. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll chat to you soon. I'll speak to you later. Goodbye.